Greetings. It's Tokazuki here from the Criminal Talk channel, and as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, in today's video, we wanted to show you 5 true crime cold cases that are still today unsolved, and you might find some of them quite interesting. Make sure to leave like and follow for future content to help the channel grow. Thank you. So now, let's get straight to it. So for our first story, I wanted to talk about a concept that has been out for quite a bit. The what-its? 2 small words, yet when placed side by side, they carry the weight of entire histories. They haunt us when we look back at moments where the course of humanity might have turned. And few tragedies embody that haunting question more than Rwanda in 1994. In just 100 days, between 800,000 and 1 million men, women, and children, mostly Tutsi, along with moderate Hutus, were slaughtered. Countless others endured horrors too great to measure. Yet what deepens the tragedy is this: it almost didn't happen. Peace was within reach, fragile but real, until one fateful night, April 6, 1994. With 2 explosions in the Rwandan sky, the hope of a nation fell burning to the ground. The story begins in 1990, when the Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front, or RPF, crossed into Rwanda from Uganda. Many of its fighters had once served in the Ugandan army, having fled persecution in their homeland. War erupted. For years, government forces and rebels clashed, their battles inching closer to Kigali, the capital. By February 1993, the war had reached a bloody stalemate. Then came a chance for peace. On August 4, 1993, after tense negotiations, both sides signed the Arusha Accords. It was an uneasy truce, fragile as glass, but it held, if only for a few months. Then, on a quiet April evening, that glass shattered. Journalist Linda Melvern captured one soldier's memory of that night in her book A People Betrayed. He recalled, "Its engine sounded different from other planes, that is, the president's engine. We were looking toward where the plane was coming from, and we saw a projectile, then a ball of flame, and we saw the plane go down. I saw it. It was just after 8 p.m., when a Dassault Falcon 50, carrying Burundian President Cyprien Ntaryamira and Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana, approached Kigali. 2 missiles streaked through the night sky. The plane exploded and crashed in the garden of the presidential palace. All on board, both presidents, senior officials, and the French crew, were killed instantly. That single act lit the fuse. Within hours, the genocide began. But who fired those missiles? To this day, no one has been definitively named. 3 competing theories endure: the Tutsis, the Hutus, the French. Theory 1, the Tutsis. Many Hutus were convinced the RPF was behind the attack, believing Paul Kagame, their commander and now Rwanda's president, had the most to gain. In 2006, BBC correspondent Mark Doyle reflected, "Kagame's soldiers took control after the genocide. I have no doubt that if he wanted to down the plane, he would have had the technical and military capacity to do so." Others came forward with direct accusations. In 2004, a former RPF Lieutenant Alois Ruyenzi, after fleeing Rwanda, claimed, "Let me be crystal clear. I attended the last meeting where the plan was hatched. I was there physically, and I even know the names of those who carried out the shooting." The allegations went so far that in 2007, a French judge accused Kagame himself, sparking a diplomatic crisis that severed ties between Rwanda and France for 2 years. Though charges were eventually dropped in 2018 and reaffirmed in 2020, the shadow of suspicion has never entirely lifted. Theory 2, the Hutus. Others point inward, to the extremist wing of the Hutu government and its military. Declassified CIA documents reveal that U.S. Ambassador David Rawson was told rogue members of the Presidential Guard may have been responsible. These hardliners despised the Arusha Accords, and some had already begun speaking of a final solution to wipe out the Tutsi population. Once the genocide began, their rhetoric filled the airwaves of RTLM, the infamous radio station that broadcast hate and called for extermination. According to U.S. intelligence, Rwanda's regular military tried, unsuccessfully, to rein in these extremist elements. Theory 3, the French. The third theory casts suspicion beyond Rwanda's borders. Kagame has long accused France, a staunch ally of the Hutu-led government, of involvement. At the time, 47 senior French officials were embedded within the Rwandan army, an army that soon played a central role in the massacres. Fueling suspicion further, the United Nations quietly locked away the plane's black box for an entire decade. When it was finally released in 2004, investigators claimed it revealed nothing useful. In the years since, 2 French presidents have acknowledged their country's failures. In 2010, Nicolas Sarkozy admitted France had made errors of judgment. In 2021, Emmanuel Macron went further, apologizing in Kigali and declaring that France had chosen silence over truth. He repeated that admission in 2024 at the genocide's 30th anniversary, confessing that France and its allies had lacked the will to act. Today, the investigation is closed. No culprit has been named. The truth remains locked away, perhaps forever. And so, we are left with the question that began this story. What if? What if that plane had never been shot down? What if the Arusha peace had endured? What if the genocide had never unfolded? History offers no answers. Only silence and the echo of what might have been. On May 11, 2011, 6-year-old Timothy Pittszen was picked up from his school in Aurora, Illinois, by his mother, Amy. She arrived without warning, telling the staff there was a family emergency. Though his teachers felt uneasy, sensing something wasn't right, they allowed Timothy to leave with her. What looked like a mother rescuing her son from a sudden crisis would instead become the beginning of one of America's most disturbing mysteries. Timothy was thrilled. To him, it felt like the start of an adventure. Amy took him to the zoo, then to a water park. They laughed, played, and stayed in hotels along the way. For Timothy, it was a spontaneous holiday with his mom. But beneath Amy's cheerful exterior, something darker was unfolding. She kept Timothy isolated, refusing to let him speak with his father or other relatives. On every call, her voice was bright, insisting everything was fine, yet she never passed the phone to Timothy. "He's busy. He's having fun," she said. Her words calmed no one. They only deepened the family's unease. The pair kept moving, checking in and out of different hotels. Surveillance cameras captured Amy, smiling, with Timothy close by. Witnesses said he looked happy, completely unaware of any danger. Yet Amy's actions grew stranger. She shopped at a hardware store, buying odd items, things that didn't fit a road trip. She even checked into a hotel without Timothy for one night. Where was her son then? No one knew. Her last call came on May 13th. Speaking to her mother-in-law, Amy sounded calm, even light-hearted. But when asked to put Timothy on the phone, she refused again. "He's busy playing," she said. But something about her tone felt unsettling, like she was hiding something beneath the cheer. The following day, May 14th, Amy checked into a motel in Rockford, Illinois. Security cameras caught her entering alone. Timothy was nowhere to be seen. By morning, the staff found Amy dead in her room. She had taken her own life. Beside her lay a note. In it, Amy wrote that Timothy was safe, but with chilling finality added, "You will never find him." She also claimed he was with people who would care for him. Her words left investigators and family members both hopeful and horrified. If Timothy was safe, who had him? And if those people didn't exist, what had she done to her son? Police searched Amy's car and found traces of Timothy's blood. Though tests confirmed it belonged to him, it wasn't enough to determine if he had been harmed seriously. Investigators retraced every step Amy had taken. The hotels, the highways, the stops along dirt roads that left dust and plant traces on her vehicle. They scoured forests, fields, and rural paths. But Timothy was gone. The nation became captivated. News channels broadcast his photograph. A boy with a bright smile and innocent eyes. Posters went up everywhere. Volunteers joined searches, clinging to the hope that Amy's words were true, that Timothy was alive. His father, Jim Pittszen, gave interview after interview, torn between grief for his wife and anguish over his missing son. "I believe he's still out there," Jim insisted, holding on to Amy's claim. But doubt grew. Many wondered if Amy's note was a cruel misdirection. Had she really given Timothy to someone, or was it a final attempt to cover up something unthinkable? Theories multiplied, but answers never came. Then, in 2019, 8 years after Timothy vanished, a shocking twist surfaced. A young man appeared, claiming he was Timothy, saying he had escaped years of captivity. Hope surged. Could this be the miracle Jim had been waiting for? DNA testing quickly shattered it. The young man was not Timothy, just a troubled stranger seeking escape from his own life. The disappointment was crushing. Yet Timothy's case remains open. Detectives still search, still comb through evidence, still hold on to the possibility that Amy's final message was true. Some believe she had help, pointing to the times she was seen without Timothy. Others believe the note was nothing but a lie. Timothy Pittzen's story lingers like a wound that refuses to heal. His father still clings to hope. You can't give up. If you give up hope, then what's left? And so, the mystery endures. Somewhere out there may be a boy who grew up hidden, waiting for the world to remember his name. Alyssa Turney was a 17-year-old high school junior living in Phoenix, Arizona, with her father, Michael Turney, and half-sister, Sarah. Like most teens, she had friends, a part-time job, and dreams for the future. But on May 17, 2001, everything changed. That was the day Alyssa vanished, without a trace, leaving her family and community searching for answers that would stretch over years. It was the last day of school. Alyssa was eager for summer break. She and her friends had plans to celebrate. What should have been a carefree day became the first moment of a mystery that would haunt everyone who knew her. The last person to see Alyssa was her father, Michael. According to him, he picked her up from Paradise Valley High School around lunchtime. They went out to eat at a local restaurant and then returned home. Michael told police that a heated argument followed, ending with Alyssa storming off, shouting that she was heading to California to live with her biological aunt. He claimed he found a note from Alyssa in her room echoing the argument. She was running away. But something about that note didn't sit right with Alyssa's friends or family. None of her belongings, no phone, no purse, were missing. If she truly planned to run away, why leave behind everything she'd need? And why didn't she tell a single friend? At first, authorities treated Alyssa as a runaway, thinking she might be in California or somewhere near Phoenix. But doubts emerged. Her $1-800 bank account remained untouched, and she never contacted anyone. Then the investigation uncovered something unsettling. Michael had been tracking Alyssa's movements, obsessively. At her job, co-workers noticed him showing up unannounced, sometimes with a video camera. In one case, he secretly recorded her interactions, claiming it was for her safety, though there was no clear reason for this level of surveillance. Home offered no privacy either. Hidden cameras were discovered in the family living room. Michael's intense monitoring extended into almost every part of Alyssa's life, screening calls, controlling friendships, keeping her under constant watch. Her friends reported that Alyssa felt trapped, uncomfortable, and increasingly resentful. It gets worse. Several people close to Alyssa, a friend, her boyfriend, and her stepbrother, independently reported that Michael had attempted to touch Alyssa inappropriately. The stepbrother recalled, during a car ride, Michael scooted closer to Alyssa and then tried to touch her in ways that would certainly get him arrested if anyone had reported it. Michael himself once called Child Protective Services, warning them, if Alyssa was to ever call them to accuse him of touching her strangely, that she's a liar, a very normal thing for a loving father to do. Michael's fixation on Alyssa extended to a supposed past trauma. He frequently claimed that years earlier she had been abused by a teacher. He said it deeply affected her, though there was no concrete evidence it ever happened. His account shifted over time, and friends noted Alyssa never mentioned it. Yet Michael used this story to justify his extreme protectiveness. When police contacted Alyssa's aunt in California, they learned she had not heard from Alyssa and wasn't expecting her. Casting further doubt on Michael's story, Alyssa's disappearance began to feel less like a runaway case and more like a mystery. Adding to the suspicion, Michael waited 5 days before reporting her missing. Normally, parents of missing children are frantic, calling friends, visiting every place they can think of. Not Michael. When asked why, he said he thought Alyssa would cool off and return, insisting she was just a rebellious teen. For years, uncertainty and doubt consumed Alyssa's family. Her younger sister Sarah refused to let the story fade. She questioned Michael's account, noticed inconsistencies, and began suspecting something far more sinister. She reached out to law enforcement, but with no new evidence and Alyssa officially labeled a runaway, the case stalled. Sarah took matters into her own hands, turning to social media to share Alyssa's story. Over time, her posts gained attention. On TikTok, she spoke openly about her suspicions of Michael, publicly declaring she believed he was responsible for Alyssa's disappearance. Her courage shocked viewers, but it was effective. Years later, in August of 2020, nearly 2 decades after Alyssa vanished, police arrested Michael Turney, charging him with second-degree murder. Authorities cited his controlling behavior as a pattern that warranted reopening the case. Second-degree murder suggested the authorities believed he killed Alyssa without premeditation, though no direct physical evidence linked him to her disappearance. Sarah and supporters held hope that circumstantial evidence and Michael's own behavior would lead to justice. In July 2023, Michael's trial began. After 6 days of testimony, the defense filed for acquittal, claiming insufficient evidence. The judge agreed, citing lack of proof, and Michael was acquitted on all charges. He was released on July 18, 2023. In January 2024, Michael filed a lawsuit against the Phoenix Police Department, claiming mistreatment in custody, inadequate meals, and denied health care. As of today, Alyssa Turney's case remains cold.
If Alyssa's out there, any message for her?
Same message I've always tried to give it.
Which is?
I love her.
You want her to come home?
Obviously so.
Since the time of Roman rule in AD 48, the village of Turney had been known for one thing: iron. But by 1993, its residents were searching for something far less tangible: truth. The truth behind one of the United Kingdom's most bizarre unsolved murders. Harry and Meghan Todts, aged 64 and 67, were enjoying their golden years in Turney. Harry, a retired cabbage farmer, had stepped away from his gardening business in 1986 after their daughter moved out. He continued to tend his remote farm, guarding his crops with a 12-gauge shotgun, until it mysteriously disappeared in 1992, forcing him to replace it. On July 26, 1993, the day began like any other. The couple collected their pensions in downtown Turney and stopped at Tesco, a routine they had maintained every Monday for nearly 15 years. In the parking lot, Harry bumped into one of his sisters. "We met them at Tesco and had a little chat about the family," she told Crime Watch UK in 1993. They were very quiet and a very devoted couple. Around 11 a.m., neighbors saw Harry and Meghan returning from the supermarket. Later, at 1:30 p.m., 2 gunshots rang out. Locals assumed Harry was shooting rabbits in the cabbage garden. That evening, when the couple did not answer their nightly call from daughter Cheryl, concern rippled through the community. Authorities were contacted. Police discovered a horrifying scene: Harry and Meghan's bodies hidden under hay in the barn, both shot execution style with a 12-gauge shotgun. Strangely, the house was immaculate. Nothing had been stolen. Meghan's china had been laid out, and tea had been prepared. Detective Superintendent Colin Jones remarked in a Crime Watch UK interview that the china was only used for important visitors. A thumbprint belonging to Jonathan Jones, Cheryl's fiancé, was found on one of the cups, leading to his arrest in December 1993. Prosecutors argued his motive was financial: a £150,000 inheritance, roughly $200,000. After a 55-day trial, Jonathan was found guilty by a 10-2 majority verdict and sentenced to life imprisonment, the harshest penalty in the UK. Almost immediately, the presiding judge, Sir Richard George Rudgier, expressed doubts. He stated that the prosecution had fallen decidedly flat, and noted the contrast between the cold ruthlessness of the killer and the man standing before them. Throughout the ordeal, Cheryl stood by Jonathan. She even offered a £25,000 reward from her inheritance to find the real killer. In 1996, the Court of Appeal of England and Wales re-examined the case. Flaws emerged. No biological evidence linked Jonathan to the crime, and he had no experience with firearms. On April 25, 1996, nearly a year after his conviction, Jonathan was freed. Cheryl called it a victory for love and truth. But with Jonathan exonerated, the case went cold, scaled down in 2008. In 2011, John Cooper was convicted of 2 double murders and 30 burglaries, sentenced to 2 whole life terms. Cooper had first been investigated due to his appearance on a British reality show, Bullseye, matching composite sketches. Investigators noted similarities. Cooper had used a shotgun in his crimes, but Cooper always stole from victims, unlike the Todts case. He also kept his shotgun between murders, whereas a shotgun barrel was found a quarter mile from the Todts farm. The Todts table had been set for a visitor, suggesting Harry and Meghan may have known their killer. Cooper was never charged in connection with their murders. In July 2023, marking the 30th anniversary of the murders, South Wales Police announced a forensic review, hoping that new DNA testing might finally solve one of Welsh history's most chilling cold cases. Jonathan Jones, now married to Cheryl for over 25 years, told the Daily Mail on July 30th, 2023, "Without wanting to raise expectations too high, I have high hopes that the new technology will yield some results. It would lift a weight that both Cheryl and I have been carrying for 30 years, and we will be delighted when and if that happens. Kenny Veach was no ordinary hiker. A fearless adventurer, he thrived on exploring the untamed wilderness of the southwest United States. Friends called him intensely curious, a trait that both fueled his YouTube videos and, perhaps, led to his mysterious disappearance. The Mojave Desert had become his playground. Abandoned mines, hidden caves, and even secretive government sites dotted the landscape. His viewers followed every step, captivated by his discoveries and the sense of danger that accompanied them. Despite the hazards, a misstep on jagged rocks, a fall, or getting lost without reception, Kenny embraced the risks. Alone, he felt most alive, listening to the desert and noticing what others overlooked. Yet, there was one sight that would change everything. A cave shaped like a gigantic M, narrow, tall, and clinging to the side of a mountain. Kenny described the sensation it gave him.
And I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before, and something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday. And I talked to some people on YouTube, and I told them, hey, I'm coming out here, you know, because they kind of called my hand on it. So I don't know if there's going to be anything to it, but it might be interesting. If I can find it, I got to relocate it.
Speculation ran wild among his audience, some attributing it to odd geology, others to secret experiments or supernatural forces. The excitement pushed Kenny to return, though he remained cautious. He prepared meticulously, alert to the desert's many dangers, and informed his girlfriend and close friends of his plans. Days passed with no word. Anxiety mounted until his girlfriend reported him missing. Search teams combed the Mojave, scouring canyons and mines, eventually finding Kenny's phone near an abandoned mine shaft, miles from any trail. The phone held no final recordings, no messages, only silence. It was as if he had left it deliberately, or had no chance to retrieve it. Despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Kenny or the M-shaped cave was ever found. The mystery sparked a community of amateur investigators online. One theory tied Kenny's disappearance to his sister Debbie V, whose Reiki studio had been burglarized in 2018. Observers speculated that the thief resembled Kenny based on security footage, though Debbie never suggested any connection. Today, Kenny Veach's case remains unsolved. The desert holds its secrets. The M-shaped cave eludes discovery, and the fate of the hiker who sought answers in its remote corners continues to haunt friends, family, and fans alike. And with Kenny's tragic story ends our video. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and see you in a next or previous one. Tschüss.